Hello, welcome back. There have been demonstrations and declarations of support from around the world for both Israel and the Palestinian civilians. Joining us now from Miami is Harley Lippman, who's part of the executive committee of the American-Israel Public Affairs Committee and the Middle East Partnership for Peace as well. Very good to talk to you today. What went through your mind when you saw the footage of the attacks inside Israel on Saturday? I mean, aside from the horror of what those images showed, do you fear now that we are further from peace than ever?
Yes and no. I mean, the first reaction is that this is the first time since the Holocaust that Jews in these numbers are being murdered just because they're Jews. And this is how Holocaust began. Auschwitz only began in 1942. The Germans did exactly what Hamas did. They went home to home looking for Jews, burned them alive if they didn't come out, raped them. And this is what Hamas is doing. So you can't but think back that this is somehow feeling like history repeating itself. As far
Hamas, Harley, just saying, when Hamas carried out these attacks, it will have known, obviously, the horror, the rage that these images would provoke and that it would lead to a much greater conflagration. Do you fear that that is now inevitable, that there will be a huge loss of life inside Gaza, which, of course, doesn't just mean Hamas, does it? It means Hamas and civilians.
Exactly, and that's exactly right. So Hamas has calculated that by holding these hostages, that they'll use it as a bargaining chip to prevent Israel from massive retaliation. But here's the thing. Yes, there'll be a huge loss of life, sadly, of many innocent Palestinians. But who's responsible for that? Hamas. They're hiding in underground bunkers right now. They don't care about their people. They're leaving them to the mercy of Israeli retaliation. You know, even suicide bombers don't come from the leadership of Hamas. Their kids go to European universities. So they are responsible. When you fire rockets from somebody's living room, you are responsible for a reaction to that, not to blame Israel for defending itself. It's a cynical ploy to, set the stage. They have a perfect strategy: murder Jews, then wait for retaliation, blame Israel. The press will turn against Israel, say excessive force. Israel is in an impossible situation, but what else are they to do?
In terms of the diplomatic avenues that are open, we understand that Qatar is involved in trying to broker conversations with Hamas about exchange of releasing the prisoners that were taken in exchange for perhaps some Palestinian prisoners who are held in Israeli jails. Do you fear, have any hope from that? Does Qatar have the influence here?
They do, because they fund Hamas. So since they're responsible for keeping Hamas alive more than any other group or organization, they have leverage. The question is, will they exert that leverage to the fullest extent, and will that work with Hamas? But that, I am very hopeful, that would be a great outcome.
The US brokered talks between Israel and Saudi Arabia. Do you think that these can still now happen? Do you think this has stalled progress on this? And was that perhaps Hamas's overall aim here? Our former Foreign Secretary to the UK, William Hague, has written today about how much of the Arab world has just given up on the two-state solution. They are now looking ahead. They're looking to the future. They're looking to economic partnerships with countries like Israel. They're fed up with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and they want to look away from it. Is Hamas here trying to drag these countries back to the table?
Well, no, I don't think so. I think that what's happening is that Saudi Arabia and the other Abraham Accords countries like United Arab Emirates and Bahrain represent Arab nations working alongside Israel and Jews to uplift the entire region. When you look at the other world, led by Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran, the people that live there live in terrible poverty, under repression, dictatorship, corruption. They have a terrible, terrible life. So they don't want the comparison of basically what I'll say is the two groups in the Arab world. You have the group that's looking forward, that wants peace, Saudi Arabia and other Arab nations. And then you have, I'll call them the rejectionists, Iran, Hezbollah, and Hamas, that they don't want that. They're afraid that their own people will rise up if they see that there's a better outcome for Arab people in that part of the world. So they want to destroy any notion of Israel and Saudi Arabia coming together and making peace. And insofar as amends for the Palestinian, the sad part is that the Saudi-Israeli talks was one of the last few opportunities to get some meaningful concessions for the Palestinians. They didn't even wait for the outcome to see what it looked like. So these are people who are like ISIS. Just make the comparison. This is exactly what ISIS did. And I think the real consequence is this. When you demonize a people, that's how you get a Holocaust. Germans were not bad people, but when you have this propaganda that makes Jews look so horrible, it makes it easier to kill them. So when the world calls Israel a racist nation, apartheid nation, which is not true, and blames Israel all the time, it lays the groundwork for delegitimization, which lays the groundwork for genocide. And that's the problem here.
Harley Lippman from the Middle East Partnership for Peace. Very good to talk to you today. Thank you for joining us on Sky.
Thank you.